For many years now, Russ and Craig have had many wide-ranging conversations with folks from all over the gaming world. This is one of those conversations.
D6G, the Lost Chapter.
Russ.
Yeah.
Russ, wake up.
Oh, sorry.
Wake up. You collapsed into your hot chocolate there.
I just got home at midnight last night. It feels like 8 in the morning. I'm so confused. I don't even know where I am.
Oh, it's great. I just want to pull the curtain aside for just a moment.
Okay.
For those select few listeners.
This never ends well.
And explain to them exactly what you did to yourself and to your family.
Yeah, really. It was
as far as the return trip from your awesome journey to the British Isles is concerned. You flew home from London, I believe?
Yes.
No, you did not fly home. You flew to New York.
Yes.
Where your car was.
Yes.
Because, of course, you drove from Indianapolis to New York.
Yes.
Got on a plane.
Right.
Had this awesome vacation. Flew back from London to New York.
Yeah.
Drove home. When did you land in New York last night?
Left London at 4, landed in New
the
York.
afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
I landed in New York at 7 at night. That's really
because of the magic
later.
of the world revolving around you.
That's 7 hours later. Then got in my car and drove back to New Hampshire, which is a 5-hour drive from New York City. Getting in at midnight, which again feels like 5 a.m. and then trying.
But that's okay. Russ is a planner.
Yes.
He sets everything up ahead of time.
Right.
So clearly he knew this was going to happen. So he took Wednesday off. Right, Russ?
No.
No,
because I had plans. I had things to do,
and
Craig.
Slam right into a full work day.
Yes,
Mr. Super Executive. How'd that go for you?
It was tiring. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty
Were
exhausting.
you leading the troops?
I had a big meeting in the afternoon, and the guy's like, "What are you doing here? Your first day back, like having big meetings?" I'm like, "Dude, the show's got to go on here." By the way, pass the coffee.
And then here he is tonight because the show literally has to go on.
It does, which is why I'm in Dunkin' Donuts drinking the Super XL Bucket Oak.
Hey,
Joe
wait.
Yeah.
Who's that guy with the goatee over there?
Oh, I think that's Curt. Remember we met him at GenCon. Hey,
you
Curt.
were talking to him at GenCon.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, Groupon bought me here. I got a real fruit smoothie right here.
Nice, excellent. You got the D6G Dunkin' Donuts Groupon.
No fair. Wait with the Groupon.
Well played, sir. Hey, Curt, what's your favorite?
Well played.
What's your favorite donut, Curt? What do you like?
Oh man, you got to love the bacon donut.
The
maple glazed bacon donut.
Yeah.
Now I have to get the bacon from the attached Hardee's.
Yes.
And bring that over here to put on a maple donut because they won't do it actually at Dunkin' Donuts.
Can you put some biscuits on that too? Because biscuits,
donut. I think now you're over carbing. At that point. You're carbing up. You're gonna. What are you gonna do? A marathon tomorrow?
Throw a little gravy on that bad boy.
No. I'm getting ready for hibernation in the winter. You know how cold it gets in Wisconsin?
I would imagine so.
Well, there you go.
That and some cheese curds, and you're good to go.
Well, speaking
I had cheese curds tonight.
How could you not?
Oh, for the love of God! So, for this Lost Chapter, we're going to talk about cheese curds.
Yes, we are. They're delicious. Do you know how many flavors you can get cheese curds in nowadays?
Is this a 4-hour episode? Because I can go on about cheese curds.
I love my cheese curds. Oh,
maybe the main show should all be about cheese curds.
If you get to Minnesota, they start importing the cheese curds from Wisconsin. You get a
actually,
there.
There's a whole runner situation where they have to hide those in the trunk of the car,
right?
And they have to drive them over the border because the Minnesota Mounted Police.
It's like
they don't like the cheese curds there.
It's like the Dukes of Hazzard of cheese curds. You gotta, Uncle Jeff.
Chickasaw County is going to keep the cheese curds out.
Just some good old boys.
Right. Gotta get them cheese curd boys.
This is going well.
Trouble with the mountain. Anyway.
Yeah, since the day they were born.
So anyway, we learned. So
Right.
we all met back up again at GenCon, which is what we just said, and we have heard the people, the that's you, the group, the mob, if you will, and the I can't handle 8 episodes of every one of my podcasts talking about GenCon.
Right.
So we're going to tighten it up a little bit. We're not doing the whole Gen Con recap full episode. We're going to talk about it in the in achievements and the games that we played and stuff like that. But Russ had a great idea. We're gonna tuck our actual reactions to Gen Con in here in the Lost Chapter.
Right. For the patrons who can't get enough of this sort of thing.
Exactly. If you're that kind of a person, you're probably already a patron.
Right. So why don't we start with you, Curt? So how passionate are you about Gen Con? You go every year?
I go every year. And in fact, my entire schedule for the entire year is based on GenCon schedule. So I'm always upset that they don't immediately start putting out the dates for when's badge registration, when's hotel registration, when's event registration. When is it that I can make my changes to hotels? When can I early book? Immediately I am planning for the next GenCon. In fact, I have a Facebook group for like 20 people that I try and coerce to take with me every year. And really that's just a ploy to get more registrations for hotels, right? So we have a better chance of getting a downtown hotel. Right. But yeah, my life revolves around that convention. I love GenCon.
You haven't gone to the point of VIG, though. Have you gone to Very Important Gamer or no? I'm
going to this next year. It's just the half hour
take
extra.
Care of everything?
It really does, and it's not that much more money when you figure in the hotel and then the early access, and it's the way to go. So I'm going to go for the VIG this next year. I think
is it really hard to get into though? I hear people are waiting. It's such a waiting list that if you can't make it one year, people are still paying for it just so they don't lose their slot.
I think that it's another opportunity. The way you have to look at it is it's another opportunity to take stress out of the process of getting a downtown hotel room.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't know if you guys saw the news program that Indianapolis had put on that there are actually less hotel rooms in the downtown area today than there were in 2010. And that really surprised me. Yeah, I was surprised by that because the Home 2 Suites just went up, and I think JW Marriott, the two hotels, the Spring Hills and the Courtyard went up next to them. But I guess there were other hotels that retired. Maybe they weren't the kind of place that you wanted to stay at. But and so the Indianapolis Tourism Board really sees this as a problem. They had the chairman of the board there really sees the hotel as the barrier now, which I think if they're the most stressful thing at GenCon, if we start out real negative, the most stressful thing with GenCon is having a place to stay.
I think that's right. I mean, everybody I talk to, Craig and I are fortunate due to the show. We get a little help with our hotel rooms, but for those friends of ours who are not VIG members, and that's most of them, although we have a few that are hardcore that are, that's the hardest part is getting that hotel room, and it's such a stressful time, and you don't know where you're going to end up, and it doesn't feel like it should be. So I don't know how they can solve that problem, but that I think is really the biggest barrier to GenCon right now is getting that hotel space. They don't really sell out of. It's not like PAX East where they sell out of tickets. They don't sell out of tickets. They just sell out of hotel space.
They sell out of places to sleep.
They fill the city up, and then they have plenty of tickets.
So one of the things that always amazed me is you've got that grassy area that's right next to the JW. There's like an entire. Why don't they have camping there?
A little tent village.
Well, there's concerts there.
They should just like Olympic.
There was a giant concert there Saturday night.
Yeah,
what the heck are they doing that there?
Yeah, build
GenCon. Get the concert out of there.
It coincided with the fireworks from the baseball field.
There's why you. Can't
this was the first I can remember where GenCon had fireworks. I was pretty psyched about that.
Yeah.
But you were all probably busy playing games.
I can't tell.
I know Russ was already asleep because that was actually you were already gone. That was Saturday.
I was gone Saturday
night.
I had to leave early because of my big
European
you were
gone.
Speaking of being gone. I don't know if you guys, I had a GenCon event schedule that was just jam-packed. I had 24 events that I registered for.
For the love of God.
Oh my God.
24. And did you know there were over 16,750, and those were the official events. 16,750 official events, which means that I missed 99.86% of all GenCon.
He's a math guy.
I love that you've done the math on that. That's sad.
My wife would be doing the same thing.
It's sad.
So really, I could have got my GenCant badge.
Yeah, but don't forget, 10,000 of those events are different Magic tournaments. So you got to factor that into the formula. But that's
totally
true. That
true.
is true. There's a lot going on there, and I think that's the important thing. I know we've talked about this before, right? Don't try to see everything because you won't. No. And I always have a blast, and I don't really sign up for anything.
Yeah, but Curt clearly tries to see a lot more than we do.
He does. You're much more effective about that than we are, clearly.
I have a priority set.
What is your priority set
that I look for? Yeah. So when I look at GenCon, I'm a little bit different than like my nerdy friends. My priorities are first, I look for what seminars can I take, because really I go to a lot of conventions, not as many as you guys probably, but you go to conventions and mainly they're either a miniatures convention or a card playing convention or a board game convention, they're usually more specialty for something. So I do a lot of board game conventions. Gen Con's one of the only places where you can go and have sort of a learning and education track. So the seminars are always my priority. This year my highlight was Sean Malloy's Death to Jeopardy, and that's on trade day. He's an educator from the Stewart Day School, Princeton Stewart Day School, and really an amazing dude. I also took a seminar on game theory. It was applying game mechanics to relationships.
Oh, interesting.
That was incredibly interesting. That wasn't a trade day seminar, but that was, I think, a Friday seminar. After I kind of try and sharpen my saw, because you really, where else can you get those kind of game context seminars? Other than Gen Con, I think that's about the only place. My next thing I try and go for is I try and acquire a new skill. Mm-hmm. So this year's new skill was in leatherworking. I usually do one of the spa events. I learned to make sushi once. I took a machine embroidery class, but my God, that costs like thousands of dollars to get in so you can make a hat that says I'm number one. I'm not going to do that. So I think I can just buy my I'm number one hat from Will Ferrell's SNL sketch. But it's great to take a class like that. And then I look, like for Gen Con, I'm a board gamer. I will do miniatures games if somebody gives me an army to play. And I do collectible card games if somebody gives me collectible cards to play. Mm-hmm. I'll do role-playing games.
I'm sensing a theme.
There we go, yes. I like to have my own cardboard set, but I am incredibly cheap because I'm from Wisconsin and I drink it all. So I try and stretch outside of my comfort zone. And this year I went with a friend of mine, and she's like a half a nerd. She doesn't have her full geek card, and she doesn't know if she wants her full geek card, but she'll come to Gamer Group, and she loves Power Grid, and she'll play Resistance with us. And I throughout the whole year, I warned her, and I warmed her up last year that Gen Con is like being Achilles, and Gen Con's your river Styx. You're going to get bathed in that just by your ankles of nerddom. And don't expect to have any solace except for the little community garden outside the JW Marriott. Well, anyway, my stretch this year and her stretch was we're going to do a LARP. And the LARP was your first time should be special. It was actually the second LARP I did. And I found out I'm not a LARPer. I did play acting, and I've done some amateur theater, and it's great. But LARP just is, for some reason, I just can't get into it. But that was my stretch, because I try and stretch myself once, and then I go for entertainment events, and then finally, if there's any room left over, I pull in some board games. Right. So out of my 24 events, I think I ended up with a couple of board game events that were, in my wheelhouse. So,
well, I'm glad to hear those seminars and stuff are cool. There are other conventions I've gone to have similar things. PAX has a lot of them. Adepticon Access had some cool ones on painting and stuff. I'm glad to hear they're cool at Gen Con. I'll have to check some more of those out in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Dave did a painting. It was actually a very specific targeted paint lesson, how to paint yellow.
Interesting.
That would be nice.
It sounds bizarre. Sounded bizarre to me, but it's actually focused on just the lighter colors.
Right.
Yeah, and primed stuff black and never got yellow to come out. And you paint it, layer it, and layer it, and layer it. Nothing. It never works.
Well, my problem, and they went into shades and how to what colors to use with different colors to shade them. Because I always just add in, like a bleached bone to bring it up, and like a darker color of the same color to bring it down. And I don't know the whole, if it's a blue, it's a brown, or if it's a red, it's a purple. I don't know those, and I would love to learn them someday.
So we already talked about the hotels, but how did event registration go for you, Curt?
So I do a little con in my hometown called the Kickapoo Conaroo every year, and it's basically a 3-day con, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I put a coffee can out and say put money in the can because I'm renting this community center. We don't have a game registration, but you can bring your own beverage, and so you can imagine the con. And you can sleep there if you wish. So I tell people bring a sleeping bag and you can sleep on the floor. I don't really care. And then Sunday, so after we do the con, Sunday, everyone basically who's going to go to Gen Con with me, who's invited, we spend Sunday looking at our wish list and hitting the submit button all at the same time. Cool. So one of the nice things about my prioritization technique is I'm not trying to get into the new hot game for a demo or something. Although this year I did do the try to win a game of the legendary Big Trouble in Little China, and that was great because I went at 8 a.m. or whatever it was. So anyway, I think I got almost everything that I wanted to register for. So event registration is not nearly as stressful as hotel registration for me. How about you guys?
So I didn't sign up for much because I wasn't going to be there for the whole 4 days, which was kind of sad. But the ones I wanted, I did get. But you're right. I feel like event registration, they've got the technology there working pretty well, and you get recommended other time slots, and you really... if there's that one particular thing you want to try and there's not very many slots for it, that's going to be tough. But generally, I find I get what I want. How about you, Craig? Did you get what you needed?
I didn't get anything because I didn't try to get anything.
Well, there you go.
I never try to get anything because I just can't do that. I don't even know when I'm supposed to do it. I don't. So I probably miss an entire, 100% really of the events. I did True Dungeon because a group of our friends wanted to do it for our friend Justin for a little bachelor party thing. So they had arranged it, and they got the time, and they got the tickets and everything, and I just paid for the tickets. And that was basically it. If Russ sees something that he thinks I would want to do, he jumps on for me. If Dave sees something he thinks I would want to do, he jumps on for me. This year, Russ didn't do anything because he wasn't staying the whole time. And Dave did jump in and bought me tickets to an awesome demo that occurred during the D6G Play by Mob event.
Yes.
So I didn't get a chance to go and do that. But for me, I think I'm like right on the edge of insane the entire time I'm at GenCon anyway, because I'm trying to balance. I want to get out there and see all the cool new stuff for myself. I want to get out there and contact all of our friends, the D6G's friends in the industry, because I don't want anybody to feel like we left them out. Speaking of Curt, I did not talk to Curt covert. I feel bad. Like I feel bad when I don't get a chance to talk to people. I didn't even get a chance to talk to any of the big wigs at Battle Foam. I was at Battle Foam the one time that it looked like Jaima was going to be free. She was finishing up with a guy, and all of a sudden, for some reason that I still don't know, my hand just started bleeding from someplace I don't know. For all I know, it was just like osmosising through my skin. All of a sudden, I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta go!"
That sounds like a
and
problem.
the two guys I was talking to went, "Yeah, please do." And
have you seen the white cases they have? Those
they had. That's
God.
where I bleed. That's where I bled. No, not.
Yeah, I think I bled from my wrists when I saw those. They're so beautiful.
They really are.
I love what they're doing with all their different stuff.
Amazing.
So I've got that going, and I've got this. I want to demo every game I'd be interested in, which is all for the most part in the vendor hall, and then occasionally there'll be a game that you can't demo in the vendor hall, and they'll usually say, "Oh yeah, we're in room so and so. Go ahead and you can go there." And then on top of that, I've been developing my own contacts in the industry for other reasons. So I have meetings and things that I have to go to. So with all of that balancing, and then I hardly ever see my friends. Russ, how many meals did I eat from the vendor hall this year?
Okay, here's a pro tip. Okay, if you're eating alone and having only a hamburger and fries, don't tweet that. Craig, you don't tweet very much, and you're tweeting pictures of, here's my meal today, again, alone. Oh, and here's my other alone meal. It was very sad.
It was sad. I was upset. I was annoyed. My friends were like, "Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll all meet for dinner." And then they would call me and go, "Oh, yeah, we already had dinner."
Yep.
So I was annoyed. That was me annoying. I did some annoyance tweeting.
Was that a guilt trip tweet? Is that what that was?
No, the guilt trip tweet was when I was luggage shaming people who were wheeling their wheeled carry-ons through the crowded vendor hall.
Well, let's talk about crowding for a minute. So there'd been some worries about Gen Con feeling super crowded this year. It felt very crowded last year. They did make some changes, but they also knew they were going to be, again, 20% bigger, however big they were. How did it feel to you, Curt? Did it feel more crowded, less crowded, about the same?
So I was social mediaing it up, Facebook and Twitter, and the conversation was generally, from the group that I was looking at, was less crowded, and it felt less crowded to me. And I think that's really due to two things. One is the inclusion of Lucas Oil I don't know if you guys had a chance to wheel down under the tunnel, and they added a ton of new gaming space there. I actually got a lightweight miniatures game in at the open gaming tables there. They moved the anime crew that used to be in the Westin all down there. I went down for a couple of shows that were the tap dance shows. Were pretty neat. That's where I did my leather work. I did a leatherworking class down there, and it didn't even feel crowded down there with all of that in the Lucas Oil. So I think the only place that and they expanded also the vendor hall. Two things on the vendor hall. They expanded it significantly, so it felt about the same in the vendor hall when you're talking about people wheeling their carry-on luggage through and stopping inexplicably to catch a Pokemon.
In the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle. No, not in the middle, but in the middle of the intersection.
Right. Well, that's where you stop to talk to your friends, right?
Oh, obviously. It's obviously the best place to get your bearings is in the middle of the intersection. So, I don't know how many times I rammed a straw up my nose because I wasn't looking at the person who stopped in front of me. But, they expanding the dealer hall. And then the last thing you talked about taking in the demo a few years ago, multiple years ago, I think Rio Grande was the only board game company that was really hawking their stuff out of a room. And so they had a very small vendor presence where you could go and buy from their mountain stack of games of all their games. But if you wanted to play their games, you went to room 122 or 222 or whatever it was, and they had a volunteer crew and they showed you the games. This year, there were 5 or 6 of those, including Czech Games Edition, which I actually got to spend time with God. Vlada was there,
nice.
But they had their own room, and they were actually selling out of that room, which I think was against policy previously. So I think GenCon has been very wise about the crowding issue and making sure that the vendors were welcome to do what they needed to do to make business. One more piece that I observed is that the JW Marriott has always been amazing at opening up their gaming space to players. I think the other hotels largely had followed suit. And so I think just having hotel game space where you could go buy Scythe or whatever the new hotness is and then go bring it back and play with your buddies, that's really important for a quality Gen Con experience.
I agree, and I agree with you right down the line. So I actually like to live in the vendor hall. One of the reasons I don't book a lot of schedules because I like to just go around the vendor hall and talk to not only the companies I know, but the new little companies in the corners, right? The new guys who are making cool stuff. So for me, I think you're right. The vendor hall was bigger, but they didn't add more vendors for every square inch. They increased it. So I think the halls were, the passageways were a little wider in there. So that felt great. And you're right. I think Lucas Oil, which is the stadium there, by adding, putting True Dungeon over there and a bunch of other stuff over there, you got a lot more room. And again, you're right. Also, there was plenty of gaming space in the hotel. So I was afraid, we'd try to find a place to play games with people and we wouldn't be able to find it. But that was not the case. It felt good to me. I mean, it's crowded, but in a good way. I don't know. Craig, what was your experience? Did you feel it was better, worse, or the same as previous years?
I felt like there were moments where it was as bad, but they didn't last long. It was more like sort of the Brownian motion of the crowd would bring a big giant mob in one direction, and you'd be all crowded in the next minute. You'd be able to kind of skirt by. The strange thing for me, I haven't been there on a Sunday in years. Ever since we started driving, I always end up having to leave early Sunday morning. So this year I flew, which I will never not do again. I learned that no matter how much it costs, I had a better time. I was more relaxed. I was more relaxed when I got home. In every possible emotional way, flying was better. And so for the first time in a long time, I got to go there on a Sunday. And the last time I was there on a Sunday, it was almost dead. It was like everything was winding down. And this year, Sunday felt like a Saturday. And it was clear that Gen Con, at least in the vendor hall and obviously everywhere else, because the people are gaming right till the very bitter end, that it goes strong all the way through to the end.
I totally agree with that. I think the family day on Sunday was very well attended, and I know that GenCon had posted their numbers. It was about the same number of 4-day badges, but their turnstile had gone up 14 or 15%, I think, attendees. And I saw a lot of families on Sunday that in the afternoon that normally I don't see. So I agree with you, Craig, that I think that Sunday was a absolute increase that maybe they should make it the best, 6 weeks in gaming instead of the best 4 days in gaming.
That would be awesome, although I don't think I could afford it.
No, I think that would break me.
That's awesome. Well, Craig, you did True Dungeon. How was True Dungeon this year in the new venue? And is it? I think we got burnt out on it in the past, but did you dig it? Was it fun?
Well, I will say what I always say, and it's always dependent upon the people that you go with. So go with people that you're very comfortable with and you're friendly with, because it's going to get tense in there when people are trying to solve the. I don't get tense because I'm really bad at puzzles, so I just sit back and relax and enjoy the show, and every now and then have something to throw in there. But I thought it was great. The production values just keep going up. The Beholder this year was crazy cool looking.
Oh, cool. And
the eye looked around, and it was brutal. I don't know how you could have possibly defeated it, but we certainly did not. And so, the puzzles were really cool. The concept behind most of the puzzles were really new. They weren't just rehashes of puzzles we'd seen before. There was a couple that were similar in sort of theme from years previous, but my only issue with the True Dungeon is the volunteers that they have. So they're making a lot of money, but they're renting half of Lucas Oil Stadium. So clearly most of the money is probably going to that. Because they're volunteers, the sort of engagement, if you will, of the people who are working with you and interacting with you varies wildly. And there's a GM in every room. And it's a different GM. So every room you go into, there's a new person.
Right.
So it's a slightly different experience. We had a great guy who was helping us out. I don't know how long it's been since you've been there, Russ, but they've got a much more streamlined way of figuring out what tokens you need to bring with you, and they catalog all your tokens. And then unless it's a weapon, you don't even need to carry it anymore because it's all on your character sheet, on the big character sheet that travels with you from room to room. Our trainer was awesome. He was really exciting, and he got us into the whole mood. And then there were some really good guys. I would say that for the most part, the people in the rooms were great. The girl who played the succubus was awesome. She got into it. She was really cool, but at the same time, she'd make these little snide comments on the side that were funny. And then there were a couple that were like, "Hello, you are at the, welcome to this room. You failed. You take 5,000 points of damage each." And you're like, "What?" That you touched it was like, "You touched this, you all die." It was like, "What? I don't know." But it was a blast.
Did you type use torch?
Use torch.
I don't know how to use torch.
I don't know what that means.
That's a text adventure.
Oh man,
nice
that's a Zork reference. You're
Zork.
way too young for this.
Yeah. Hello, sailor.
No, it has nothing to do with young. It has to do with I was like 20 before I touched my first computer. That's what it has to do.
Oh, there it is.
That's what she said. Okay, moving right along.
All right, but anyway, I really enjoyed it. I think that every year they kick it up a notch. It's super exciting, and it's neat. If you want to go on YouTube and look for the walkthrough, the riddle solving walkthrough, or the puzzle solving walkthrough, which should be easy to find on the True Dungeon puzzle walkthrough, because it shows you all the different rooms and the puzzles and what you have to do to fix it, what you had to do to figure it out. And we did most of them, but there were a couple that we just didn't solve, and one that I don't think we ever would have solved in a million years. But it was a lot of fun.
All right, cool. I'm glad that was fun for you.
It was cool.
So before we wrap up here, because it's getting late and the Dunkin' Donuts guy is giving us the evil eye, I think.
Yeah, and you're about to fall asleep again into your hot chocolate. Let's not lie. Let's not blame that guy.
I want to hear what the hotness was. I know in achievements we'll talk a little more about some of these games you play, but what were some of the games that maybe you didn't play them or buy them, but were kind of hot and flat around there and what everybody was rushing to get? Kurt, what do you think people were really focused on this year?
Scythe was a big. That was huge, and Mansions of Madness Second Edition had a lot of conversation. I played the First Edition; those were huge. Codenames Pictures, big. Probably for me, those were the big three that I wanted to at least look at. There were a lot of, one of the things, and I don't know all of the different mini games, but my God, the minis quality has just gone through the roof. And every time I look at like some new miniature set, I'm like, oh, maybe I should buy this and start playing it. And then I come to my senses and I say, wait, I need to find 4 or 5 or 6 other people that want to do this before I do it.
Yep.
And end up with my nice little collection of useless plastic that I'll never get to play with.
So some years, that's a good point. Some years we've talked about how they were years where we felt like the new hotness was there to buy, and other years we felt like the show was mostly previewing new hotness that wasn't out yet. Where do you guys think this year fell? Was it mostly, oh man, like Sky's a good example of one that was actually a Kickstarter, just shipped. So if you didn't Kickstart it, Gen Con was sort of the first big place you could see it with all the Kickstarter stretch goals that you could now pay lots of money for, and it is a beautiful game. Did you feel it was more like that, or was it a lot of previewing stuff that wasn't quite ready yet?
I think if you look at Codenames Pictures, Sky's, Mansion of Madness, and Seafall, sort of as the top 4 things that really were hot at Gen Con, those were available. At least Seafall, for the early access badges. People
Seafall
could get them.
was barely available. There's like 100 copies of Seafall. As someone who wanted to buy it, that was like, unless you were really a VIG or something, you weren't going to get that one.
And that's the early access is a blessing.
Yeah, it is. Did you get it?
I didn't buy it, but the stack was there when I walked by.
Oh, so I should have. If I'd known you were there, I could have slipped you, 100.
I had got there. I have early access to the vendor hall, and really I use that opportunistically just to avoid the rest of the crowd.
Yeah, that's smart.
And I walk right to the back to the small guys, just because I want to. I'm pretty good at picking out which small station is going to have this year's or next year's or something that's really worth it.
Yep.
Castle Panic. I remember when I forgot the designer's name.
Yeah.
But I found the Castle Panic guy back in 2012.
Yes, yeah.
And I knew he had a winner right then. So anyway.
So what was your little find like that this year?
There was a game that wasn't ready to go in the far corner, and it was a hex game, and the name of it is slipping. They weren't ready. I cannot remember the name of it.
What kind of game was it?
It was a hex base, and they had 3D printed up the hexes, and you made choices based on your location, and so it was kind of area control, kind of choice selection. Oh, what was the name of that? I'm gonna look it up because I'm sure I can remember.
We'll ask Craig here. Craig, what about
Yes.
you? Did you find it was a year of the stuff you wanted was there, or did you find it was more of a preview year?
There seemed to be a lot of, Fantasy Flight is doing this new thing now where they're not really releasing things at Gen Con. They're talking about what they're going to release.
Right.
So that's very frustrating. All the new Imperial Assault stuff looked awesome. I really loved that little quick Game of Thrones card game. The Hand of the King was a really funny and fluffy kind of game with really funny cartoony art that I thought was great. And the Rune Wars game that I did all the writing for was awesome, but that's not coming out until like 2017, I think. Right. So that was weird. The Giant Killer Robots game that Weta Workshop did the models for isn't even ready to go to Kickstarter yet. Right. So it's always frustrating to me when I see that. And then the big find for me, and I think for us, Russ, when you see what I brought home with me,
I know,
sadly was not available for anybody else, which was the Blood and Plunder Kickstarter that fulfills in December, hopefully. And I talked a lot to those guys. I got a chance to play with Mr. Nunez, the one of the designers. I got to talk to Fred, the other designer. I got a lot of chance to hang out with both of those guys, and it looks like everything's going to go great. Mike actually taught me the game, which was awesome, Saturday night. So we have a bunch of those models that I'm in the process of painting right now, and 2 ships, and I'm all excited and I'm jazzed up for Pirates now. Nice. But again, that if you had not, if you weren't us, you would have seen that. They had an amazing booth. It looked like a movie set. They had great tables that were super exciting with the Caribbean blue water, and they had the ships on it and everything. But you couldn't buy anything there. They were doing pre-orders that they could fulfill as soon as the Kickstarter fulfills. But I just think there's an awful lot of that, and I think that I don't know. I think it would probably be better if your game fulfilled a little bit before Gen Con, so then you could sell it at Gen Con on the wave of that excitement. But I think that's a level of planning that a lot of people don't even think about when they're doing all the other planning
you'd have
for
to
a
be
Kickstarter.
You'd have to be someone like Stephen Bonacore to have major releases ready to go.
Yes, indeed. Oh, my God, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Well, he did. I mean, Stephen
that game, what did they have, like 50 copies?
No, they had lots. So Stronghold came with lots of copies of Dragon and Flagon, as well as lots of copies of Terraforming Mars. And even though we had quite a few, it's still, I think Terraforming Mars sold out second day, and Dragon and Flagon sold out first day.
Yeah, first day. Because I was standing there as it sold out.
But if you wanted to, like, I was like, I knew I wanted it. I went over there at 11:30 and got 2 copies of it.
Yeah.
So you could get it if you knew you wanted to get over
It
there.
wasn't like a Seafall.
It wasn't like, so I felt like you. I think a lot of it was really previewing type stuff.
Yeah.
And with a few exceptions like Stronghold, most of it was, I think Skyler's a good example of also where they had it there now. And there was a couple of the Kickstarters, like I got Saloon Tycoon, which is another one that just finished Kickstarter and was there. So there were a few of those that were great because the advantage of buying them at a con like GenCon was you could pay the extra and get the stretch goal stuff.
Yeah.
So you're paying more than the Kickstarter guys did, but you have access to all the cool bits. So I like that part of it. And I was really looking for games like that. My credo this time was don't buy anything that I could buy at home within the next month. Only buy things that come with extra bling because you're at Gen Con.
Yeah, see, I should have done that.
Yeah, because Ascension.
Wise.
I was avoiding Star Trek. I guess Ascendancy, the new one from Gale Force 9, because I knew it was going to be hitting the streets any minute now. But then I realized only after I avoided it that it came with special space station bits, and you could buy these other bits, and I buy it a mat, and I was like, oh no, I blew it. So that was my one error. So, well, cool. Well, we're getting the little eye from Mr. Dunkin' Donuts over here that we need to move along. So. So, Curt, well, thank you so much for joining us here real quick. We're going to have you on the main show here in about a week or so. So thanks for taking time out of your Dunkin' Donuts visit to chat with us.
I appreciate it. And the Hardee's already closed, so I can't even get my bacon glazed anymore. So,
jeez. There's no reason to stay here. There's no reason to live.
When I was in college, Hardee's was open 24 hours. What the heck, man? It's just...
Yeah, I know.
It's going
different
downhill.
world, Russ. It's a different world.
All right, Curt.
Kids these days, I tell you.
These little snowflakes couldn't possibly man a fast food restaurant 24
Back when I was a
hours.
kid, you could stay in a Dunkin' Donuts 24 hours.
I could have 2 biscuits of gravy at 2 a.m. and lock it. All right. Well, Curt, thanks again. We'll see you in about a week.
I'll see you in about a week, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for purchasing a D6G Lost Chapter. Supporting the show helps it grow.